Welcome to Rooted in Light. I'm Tuesday Rivera. I'm so glad to be here with my guest, Sommer Sibilly-Brown. Welcome, Sommer. Thank you for being on.
Hello, Tuesday. Thank you for having me.
What the listener or viewer, because it's on YouTube as well, what the viewer doesn't know is Sommer and I have had a battle to get onto this podcast today.
Oh my God. Tell me about it.
It was not easy, but I'm sure it's going to be worth it. The reason I invited Sommer on this podcast is because I want her to talk a little bit about her own spiritual tradition. And Sommer is one of those folks that, well, I've known you for years now, and look, super impressive professionally. And we're not going to talk about that much, I don't think, because I really want to talk with Sommer about her tradition and specifically around goddess and her tradition and how she came to it so that we hear a little bit a different face of the goddess. Folks might remember one of my earlier episodes was around the 1,000 facets of goddess, right? Goddess shows up as a diamond with 1,000 faces. And she really does look quite different depending on kind of how you approach her. And Sommer is one of those folks that I can have real deal goddess conversation with. And so I wanted to invite her on and just really have a chance for folks to hear about a whole different pantheon of goddesses, perhaps a different way of approaching goddess practice, and what it actually looks like in real life. I feel like there's a lot of kind of like, oh, I love goddess. I'm getting into communion with the divine feminine, but you have an ongoing practice that I want to have people hear about. So Sommer, is there anything else you would say to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think I would tell people that practice is the key word. Like for me, when listening to the introduction, I was like, oh my God, bite my nails, because I was like, I don't know what I know about goddess except that I love her. Except that she's been refining me in like very soft and caring ways, but also very like hard and not pleasant ways. And like, you know, just like, this is like a constant challenge and it's like my constant joy. And so I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can introduce people to anything but like this constant practice and, like commitment to pursue her, but also to be pursued by her, right? Like it's those two things. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, that's perfect. That's already, right, a different way of thinking about it. Like, not only am I going to pursue her, but know that she's pursuing me. So let's kind of like, let's take it back and let's talk about your tradition. How did you first encounter Ifa? What called you to that path? What is the path? How would you describe it?
So I had no idea what called me to it. Like, it's funny. I had a classmate when I was in elementary school and her name was Yoruba. I had no idea that her name, in my Catholic school upbringing, having a person in my class whose name was Yoruba, it was just kind of like, you know, oh, she has another weird name like me. I'm Sommer, you're Tuesday, she's Yoruba. Our parents are like
hippies or whatever.
Whatever. But what does it really mean? And so it ties in now because like I practice, a large part of my life is practicing the Ifa tradition, which some people call the Yoruba tradition, right? Some people call it Isheshe. And how it came to me is through relationship with a woman, right? Like with a friend, a person who I trusted very much, who is now my godmother in the tradition, Iya Omi Shegun. She's also a very close friend. And I remember when she got initiated, she created a practice of going to the water every New Year's, and she prayed for people. She was all in white. She came to my house, hair freshly cut, and she said, I need to tell you something. And we went for a walk from my house, and she lives like 5 houses down, so it's not even like a city block. Short walk. And she was like, I was at the water and I was praying for you and I received messages for you. And she kind of took this risk. I was like, messages that, you know, I have done yoga. I knew Kemetic yoga, but she's like, here's these messages. And she basically told me that in her prayer, what she received from the water was that I had all these many gifts. I was meant to do great things. And that if I didn't choose them later in life, if I came to her and said, well, I didn't have this and I didn't have that and I didn't have this, know that it would kind of be like my fault because I have
Oh,
gifts, but if I
interesting.
don't use them, they will be taken away from me. And she also
Mm.
suggested that there is something for me in the water and that I go sit by the water and commune with it. And she also, the last thing she said, and I'm not telling you what spiritual practice to choose, only that you need to cultivate a relationship with spirit. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, okay, sure, got it. I was like, yeah, this all sounds great.
Did it sound true to you? Did it like was there any resonance within you?
It resonated in the way that this person that I trusted was telling me something that I knew was important, but did it
Okay.
like dig in and like take root?
Right.
No, that didn't happen in that moment. I said yes and I committed to it, but it was a superficial yes. Uh, it took about 90 days. It took about like goddess worked quick. It took about 90 days for this opportunity to come up in my life for me to so this is December. Um, I go back to school. There's all of this like change happening in the government system where teachers' pay cuts are getting cut. People are being asked to do something. My principal gives me a challenge to complete something for children by February. I'm like, I'm not doing it. She can't make me.
Oh.
So Goddess is playing
Oh.
with me at this time,
Uh-huh.
right? Because I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's not happening. I'm not. Yeah, people are getting pay cuts. She can't make me what? She's just the principal. No. And then the
Uh-huh.
principal calls me. It's like January 27th. The event is our ag fair. It's February. She calls me for a check-in on how the project that she gave me is going. I've been trash talking since October, right? Like to all the other teachers. And then I like told her I wasn't prepared and I think we need to cancel this event. She doesn't look up from the desk. And I'm saying she because for me this is the feminine energy that in retrospect and she doesn't even look up. She just said I believe in you. And I was like, "You what?" I was like, "Oh, different story. Run to the classroom." And I did end up doing it was like wild children, come, we must do a project, right? I'm not relating any of this to goddess yet or the divine, right? These are just like contextual conditions that I'm living in. And we do the presentation, we win the presentation. Third place, I think I'm done. And right, the children come up to me and they asked me, they were like, Miss Sibley, we won this presentation, but we want to continue doing this work. And can we? And so now I have to go back to the principal and be like, I told the babies, I was like, listen, I didn't want to. I was really mad on the inside, but I'm an educator and we tell children, you can do whatever you want. And now they're asking me to do something. And I was like, you can help these children live into their best lives and like be the adult who models the behavior. Or you can do what you really want and scream, no, we've done enough. But so I did the other voice, right? I listened to the other voice.
Uh-huh.
And that started me on a trajectory of building. So this isn't about work. This is the part where spirit and work for me intersect very closely. We started the Virgin Islands Farm to School initiative, which made me had to go back to Omi, who is my Ia, but she's also a development person, and ask her, would you help me write a grant for the Farm to School Network to support these children? Of which she said yes. So like in this moment, in retrospect, right? Because now this is what, 12 years or more later, Goddess had given me a message, but also given me support in the messenger who
Yeah.
said yes,
Yeah.
right? She said yes. And so now I'm walking this path, but I'm not alone. There's these women, the physical embodiment of the divine,
Right.
all who were just like, I see you, I encourage you, I believe you. Yes. After that, yes, is when I started going to the water. So it's
Okay, hold
like,
on. I'm
yeah.
gonna I'm gonna pause you because this is so perfect because I think that people why I'm so glad to hear this story from you. And I want to kind of like get people to tell me their goddess connection stories is because it doesn't always look like, oh, I was sitting at my altar praying and goddess came down and said, "You are the one and you will be my follower," right? It actually often happens in pretty mundane things. And it's only in kind of hindsight or retrospect, you're like, oh, wait, that was her kind of like creating a path for me to her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So then it wasn't until after that you start going to the water. Pick it back
Right.
up.
So I start going to the water, and I've always loved writing. And so I take a journal and I sit, and every Sunday I'm just there and I'm sitting and I'm writing, and I'm just like finding myself in this quiet space between me and the water. And so it's like, 6 months later, I'm like, so can you tell me more about your tradition, right? Because now I'm seeing my friend who I know is a Ifa priestess. I don't know what Ishishe is yet. I'm conflicted because, I went to Catholic school. I I live in the Caribbean, and as Caribbean and as Caribbean centric as I am, there's this part of me that has been conditioned that anything occult or anything different means that it is bad or devil worship or like negative connotations of witchcraft, like that people hide from others. And so I'm like, here's my friend walking this path. She's all in white. She's the purest hearted person I know. She's blessing me with her free service of development, right? And I trust her deeply. The thing that she said to me feels like it's opening something. I don't know what it is, but something different is happening in my life in relationship to me, like finding my truest, most authentic self. I have a kind of gift for the work that I'm doing now that is growing in an expansive space where I no longer feel like I fit in the school, though the school was my pathway. And so I'm curious about this tradition, but I'm also very scared because of the only information I have about this has been given to me by TV, by media, by like I know nothing besides like this isn't like the Church of God. This isn't Christianity, so it is wrong. And it's some type of like manipulation, something not good. But I'm also like, but how could it be? Because this woman who embodies goodness to me is involved. So I'm like, can I have a reading? Right? And like I want to know more about divination. And I'm also very scared because what does that mean? And so she's like, sure. But but I'm also like, is it witchcraft? Am I gonna go to hell? Oh no.
Oh,
Right?
right. Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Because the only views I've seen are those of African traditional religion has been painted by TV, and it's like in horror movies, and it's like telling people that this is not good. And so she gave me a book to read. Interestingly enough, before she
Okay.
did reading, she recommended I read a book. I don't remember the name, but I remember reading the book, and I remember the specific chapter on witchcraft, and like
Mm.
it gave me a whole different orientation
Okay.
to like the indigenous roots of herbs and like ways, and like it reframed it for me in a way that
Okay.
I was still like nervous
Uh-huh.
but ready. And she does my reading, and I'm told that I have to the first thing I had to do was cleanse my ori, right? And so ori is represented by like this part of the crown, right, of our heads. And that's all I know at this time. And she's like, you got to feed your ori. And I was like, okay, feed my ori what? And she's like, well, we have to ask what it is. And I'm like, well, what could it be?
I'm appreciating your reticence, your caution, your skepticism,
Like,
right?
what could it
Yeah.
be? Right?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so, like, of course, I Google everything. And
Of
she's like,
course.
stop it. Stop Googling it. Because I'm like, oh, it could be something as simple as coconut. It could be like all these things, pummel, but it also could be blood. And so, of course, like,
Uh-huh.
I'm imagining like
Yeah.
being bathed in animal blood because that's what
Right.
you see on TV.
That's what you see.
So I go home and I'm like, dear God, dear God, dear Jesus, please, as I go to because so the thing that I've learned is like for me, goddess and God and the Orisha and Olodumare, the universe, the divine has many names. And you often, even in my pursuit of goddess, my
Mm-hmm.
default is the base religious understanding that I'm building on. And so I
Right, of
pray
course.
in many ways. And in that
Great.
time, I was like, hey, God, can you make sure that when I go get my Ori fed, that there's absolutely no blood involved? That would make me very, very happy, God. Thanks.
Summer.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Friend, I have no idea where this story is going, just so you know. So, because Summer and I haven't talked about this, but there's a part of me that's like, it's going to be blood. Also, like, why wouldn't it be? Christianity, the body and the blood of Christ. Like, many, many faiths have a blood component. So it's like we treat it, right, as if it's so wild and so dark, right? That blood would be involved. But like,
No,
like many of us
but
pray to a nailed God. That's pretty dark.
yeah, but also in the New Testament of the Bible, um, God tells Abraham to go set up an altar and make a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is blood, right?
Right.
In every place in order to own and dominate the land and establish himself as so, right? But I wasn't there yet. And so I was just
Right.
like, please don't. And the lesson that I learned from that moment is that there either is truly one God or all the gods are talking to each other. So I have no clarity, right?
Oh,
If
that's
we
gorgeous.
believe that
That's
there's separate
gorgeous.
gods, like if we believe that, well, the pantheon of the African traditional religions and the pantheon of like the Hindu or Buddhist, or if they're all
Right.
separate, and then Jesus Christ is his own
Right.
entity, and there's a bunch of gods up there in the heavens that exist, they talk to each other. Because in my desire to get to know Ifa and have my first divination, I
Uh-huh.
prayed to the God that I understood at the time.
Yes.
And guess what? I only had to feed my Ori shea butter. She had to cleanse my Ori with coconut water. And we had
Okay.
to feed it shea butter and obi, which is like palm nut. And chew it
Okay.
up and put it in, mix it in. And I had to sleep with a white cloth. And that felt really good to me. And I was like, oh, okay. And so this is the interesting part, how Goddess prepares you, right? So I'm in it. I had my first reading. I did my Ori. It feels like the reading was magical because I was like, how did this come down on the mat? I didn't give her any information and it all felt so true. And so it's like, let's say maybe another 6 months pass, right? So we're a year from the moment, nope, maybe 9 months, because we're 9 months from the moment where she told me and I just woke up. I was in my bed, sleeping, and I was like, I want to feed my Oria guinea fowl. Just like that.
Oh,
I just,
just that clear.
so yeah, so I just called her. I was like, hey, I want to feed my Oria guinea fowl. And she was like, what? She's like, so you're skipping the pigeon and the chicken to go to like, this is a really, the guinea fowl is like forceful and energetic and loud. It's not calm, right? Like, it's funny when I see the babalaos hold it, I always look at it as a chicken machine gun because they're like the way they hold it. Anyway, that's me. Sorry.
It's
That's
all
not,
right.
they're like, what? I've been to, no, that's how I see it.
Yeah, right. We're not describing it for anyone else. You're just sharing what happens for you.
And I buy a plane ticket and I go to Atlanta because I was that sure
You were that
that
sure.
it was time and that I needed that specific thing. So, yeah.
Summer, let me ask you. Are you a person who is that sure? Like, is that something that happens in your life? Are you a person who's like turn on a dime decisive, or was this something new for you?
I think it was something new for me. I am not,
Okay.
by nature, I'm expansive. So Tuesday knows me, but your listeners don't. So
Yeah.
as an Aquarian, I feel like I get lightning fast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Doctor Strange. If you follow the Marvel universe or whichever one he's a part of, I'm Doctor Strange, right? I'm like the alternate universe, like we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do
Uh-huh.
this. So I'm constantly iterating on multiple options.
Yeah.
So that I would say I am not
Yeah.
this ever.
Like, this is it. That's what I'm going to do. I would agree. I think like part of your brilliance and your gift truly is to like see multiple options and be able to take 7 paths at the same time. And so this idea that you wake up one morning and then you're going to go do that must have been shocking, but you just knew it. You're just convicted. That's what I'm going to do.
And so much so that I spent my money, got a plane ticket, went to Atlanta, and proceeded to have my ori fed. And I was not bathed in blood. Um, so that was the first thing. It was small, and it went on my forehead, it went on my navel, went on top of my toes. They explained to me what it meant. And it was 1, 2, 3, it was 4 women. Right. So I remember being in a house in Atlanta, and it was 4 different Iyanifas who were doing spiritual work that day. Their babies were there. Children were running in the house. There was food. There was music. There was laughter. People had on lapas. There was all this beautiful art around me. There, like it was such good community. There was praying for each other. There was lots of people being vulnerable and sharing, here's where I need prayer. And there was sisterhood picking it up and holding it and praying for it. And we did the spiritual work. And then there was cleaning up together, right? There was running from the escaped guinea fowls, because that also happened.
Okay.
And they caught it. And they caught it, right? But I was like, whew, in the bathroom, am I safe? And really, truly. But I was like, oh, this feels so wonderful. And so pure.
And so pure. Where just to kind of like bring it back, your concern was that there was something impure about this, something not of goodness, not of. I want to just quickly tell you, it's so interesting. I'm sure I've heard of a guinea fowl before. Like I'm sure, like it doesn't like when you say the word, but just 2 weeks ago on a trip out to Wyoming, a guinea fowl feather came across my path, and I have it upstairs right now. And so I just like love when those kind of like nice synchronicities happen. So it felt like worth mentioning to you.
Yeah. And so that was my path in. That was my first choice, was to actually trust Goddess's message, the surety she put inside me, to take the money out of my pocket, to pay for it, and to step in and have that experience. And I have slowly been practicing and learning and trusting the surety of Goddess. And so, getting to know Yemaya, getting to know Oshun, getting to know Oba, getting to know Oya, getting to know all of these different, getting to know Orisha Odu, who's also a woman, right? Getting to know their facets, and seeing what is embodied in me is amazing. It's truly amazing. And I think I want to lean into the fact that I met you Tuesday, right? And so here I am, right? First orientation is to Christianity, right? Catholic school, Baptist church as an adult with my mother.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And now I've found Ifa, and both of these things seem to serve me well when I need clarity, when I need guidance, when I need to feel safe, when I have life decisions to make. And then I meet you, and I remember the first goddess class that you held.
Yeah, you were in the first one. You were in the very first one.
Yeah. And so then I have the book at home still. Oh my gosh, what's the name of the
Awakening
book?
Shakti.
Awakening Shakti. I still, and so I begin reading it, and we begin practicing, and we go through the course, and I really find myself in like the descriptions of Durga and the descriptions of Lakshmi. And like, I'm like, oh, these are energies that I also hold. Right. And I'm like, and then it's like, I actually can't put this down, right? Because so now I'm holding 3 different, completely different balls of like, I'm not juggling them per se, but they are like, sometimes different tools talk to me, and they're the most appropriate tool for me to use in the moment. in how I know Goddess, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, like, I, as a practitioner, I just feel like I'm a student of whatever Goddess wants me to be a student of. And she's chosen to speak to me through multiple paths.
Yes. Okay. All right. I want to ask you about this multiple paths because I think it's really, I think it will be really alive for people who are listening, right? Many of us were not raised in any kind of tradition that had goddesses. And and we find our way, we're just going to go there. We find ourselves called by traditions or lineages that aren't ours, and I use that in quotes, right? Because I also am challenged by the idea that a spirit can be, can be just of one particular people, although that's where they, like where they were articulated and recognized and have practices around. So how do you make sense of that, Summer? How do you manage that these are different traditions, some of which might be directly, like if we think about Ifa, like probably West Africa, I assume is where, right?
Yes.
But certainly Hinduism isn't, as far as I can tell in your family line, nor actually is Christianity the basis of it, right? And so so that's what I kind of like, that's why I always get a little like, like Jesus can belong to anyone and we don't call it cultural appropriation. And I'm not trying to be controversial here. Actually, I'm just wondering how you make sense of pulling these different threads from different traditions.
You know, I'm going to be super basic. It's kind of like telling us we can't eat Italian food or Thai food or Korean
Mm.
food and enjoy it and learn to cook it and pay homage to its origin, but actually
Mhm.
become masters at the craft of any type of cuisine, right?
Mm.
Prayer, religion, understanding is actually no different. Um, I believe that the divine is so awesome. It comes to everyone in the way that it can articulate it. So we have indigenous peoples and we have
Yeah.
places in the earth who have used, for the most part, what is given to them to articulate their understanding of creation, to articulate their understanding of goddess and God and life and the cycles in it and the seasons. And if we look across all traditions, we begin to see through lines,
Oh,
right? We see the
absolutely.
through lines. We see that character is important. We see that truth is important. We see that care and respect of elders is important. We see that honoring those that came before. We see care for the land. We see steward, like
Yes,
there's
yes,
all of
yes,
these
yes.
themes that surpass the articulation,
Yes.
right? And so I personally believe that Goddess will use any mechanism she chooses to groom me, to love me, to prune me, to discipline me, right? But
Yes,
also to be in
100%.
joy with me because I think Goddess enjoys me. I think she enjoys playing with me and seeing my reaction and
Yeah,
being like, this is what we'll throw at Summer and Tuesday today and see if
yeah.
they can hold their character while they try to get on the podcast, right?
That's oh, right. That's right. Because you play back, right? Just to name, because you play back. I think, if I think about the Tantra tradition, the goddess that I'm devoted to, like her name means player of the blissful game. She is
Mm.
playing with me all the time. I am nothing but a toy in her world. And like sometimes I'm a toy that feels well treated, and sometimes it's like, what you gonna do now, Tuesday? You know what I mean? And so I really like that you'll play back with her.
Yep.
And so I love that. And that does make me wonder, because you said you got a little spicy this morning, if maybe we had trouble getting on this podcast because that amount of spice you brought this morning, but that's all right. We're here now.
Yeah.
We're here.
And she was like, I'm gonna see if you can take it as good as you can give it. And hopefully I did. And so I say that to say that I hope if anything I say on this podcast today that anybody could take meaning from is like, this is your spiritual journey.
Yeah.
You know within your
Yeah.
like, I know within my being, even when I'm uncomfortable, even when I don't want to, when you begin to build relationship with Goddess and you trust her and trust yourself to lead into her, you actually know when there's a message regardless of who the messenger is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think
yeah.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think so. I think so. I think that um, it can be unmistakable if you allow yourself to believe it. And so there's something here. I think a lot of my work is like just like holding a mirror up to people and saying, like, kind of like, you know what you saw, you know what you experienced, and you know it's real, and
Mm-hmm.
and you get to go after it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you about the Orishas specifically. And are there ones that you work with more? How would you describe your relationship with them? Just bring us in a little bit to that kind of thread that you pull.
So in terms of working with, what I would clarify for people is, one, I'm like a devotee, right? I'm not a priestess. I'm not initiated.
Mhm.
I am a student. I am learning my ile, which is basically our home, or like the group we practice under, right? Is Idinileke. It's based in Atlanta. And I practice under the tutelage or leadership of my godfather, Baba Kolade, and my godmother, Iya Omi Shegun. They are husband and wife, but I have many other in our community circle, Babalaos and Iyanifas, who support me. And so the Iyanifa or Iyalosha, right? They are people who are women initiated to Ifa, Iyanifas. They are priestesses, women initiated to the Orisha, Iyaloshas, right? And then Babalaos, right? They are male priests who are initiated to Ifa, because you can be initiated to Ifa
Uh-huh.
and then you can be initiated to the Orisha. So you can be initiated to
Ah, okay.
Shango, you can be initiated to Obatala, you can have
Okay.
multiple initiations.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Each initiation comes with vessels, things that you steward and care for, right? And in my case, because I am a devotee and I am wearing my Ide, right? This is my Ifa bracelet. I have a hand of Ifa. So my hand of Ifa is one of the primary tools that I'm stewarding, caring for, do my weekly devotion to. I also have, which is rare, but I was told that I needed it. I also have an Oshun. And I am not initiated yet. So even though I have an Oshun and I use it to pray, Iya Omi is the primary, like when she's here, because she is initiated as an Oshun priestess, I navigate that vessel through her
Mhm.
tutelage. I'm not
Yeah.
using it. I just have it as, a shrine to steward, to care for, to make sure. And then when she comes, we do the cleaning, the feeding, the deep spiritual practice work, right? Because again, I'm not a priestess, but when so you asked me who are the primary Risha. So first there's Ifa. There's always Oshun in my life, in my daily life. But then there is Eshu, because whenever I pray, I also go to Eshu. Um, there's Shango. In my last reading a year ago, I go to Shango often. Um, I often pray to Oya, who's another feminine deity, and then Yemaya and Olokun. I live in a place surrounded by water, so water deities happen to call to me. So we just had an Olokun festival here, which is always beautiful in Olokun and Ajay. So Orisha Ajay is Olokun's daughter, also feminine energy, but it's the energy of wealth and prosperity. And then in my life, I am also called to serve Obatala, which is the Orishas that is the easiest translation for me is like over leadership, right? Like when you're called to
Okay.
great leadership.
Okay.
But every time you get a reading, there could be different energies governing you, right? So it's like it's these are the Orisha I've named and
Uh-huh.
Ifa, they're constant, right? They're always
Okay.
kind of in my mix.
Okay.
And like
And you have practices and ways of honoring and
and
being
I'm
in
learning,
connection.
right? I'm learning
Of course.
Oriki, right? So like their sacred names, how to call them, how to sing to them. the things they like,
Ah,
the things they don't like,
beautiful.
how to pray to them, um,
Okay.
what you never give, right? But also learning a little bit more about their character and their stories, because kind of like there, it's not exactly the same, but like I feel like the allegory, right? The allegory related to the triumphs and the defeats and the ways in which the Orisha embody our humanity and have come to earth to walk, to do things or change things. Those stories are super powerful. And like, so those are where the lessons are. So also learning their stories, listening to those are
Yes.
super beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah.
Beautiful.
And it's funny because there is a name for Oshun. I don't know how to say it, but they call her the bearded lady, as I like, see, here's all my chin hair, right?
You know what, Summer? It happens to all of us.
I'm going to
Oh,
deal with it. But like everybody's like, are you not going to wax your chin? And sometimes I'm like, Oshun, the bearded lady, right? Who represents some of her warrior like energy.
I love
And
it.
I find that I do have like some fierceness in me,
Yeah.
which is why I also relate to Durga. Really
Yes.
like
Uh-huh.
I have that like in a dime, you're like, you're gonna make me like flip. I don't even when I don't meet it, I'm like, so
I believe this about you, Summer. I have just never experienced it, but I can feel it. I can feel it. It's right there. It's it's
oh
it's right
my
there, but I
goodness,
haven't
there's
experienced it. But let me ask you two, maybe kind of like two questions that go back to back. One is, what has surprised you most about this path of Ifa? And then, and that could be surprised, good or bad. Um, and then I also want to know if they've is there anything that has challenged you that
oh
has been hard about this path? So anything that surprised you or challenged you?
anything that has surprised me. So much has surprised me. So much has surprised me.
I know. Even as I
Um
asked you, I'm like, oh, I know.
but what surprised me the most is what my destiny really is. So I think the
Ah,
thing that pulls me towards Ifa the most is this is the place that has given me the most accurate translation and validation of self. The
wow.
things that
Wow.
have come to me in divination about, like what I do in my everyday. I mean, so this is the part about my work. I run a nonprofit and I don't run a nonprofit. I'm actually living my
Mm,
destiny. And
amen. Amen.
it's been a beautiful integration, but it's also hard to translate to a team of people who are living in a
Yeah.
like a outward facing world that has to have a 501c3 structure, that has to have compliance models, that have to have policy and procedures, that the decisions I'm making and the motivation I have to do this work is actually guided by spirit and the
Yes.
divine, and is
Yes.
often counterintuitive to the steps that people think I should make, right?
Uh-huh.
So, like,
Yes.
imagine going into a board meeting or a team meeting and be like, hey guys, we're not doing that because last night I had a dream. The Orisha said no. Mm-mm. I
Right.
was visited by Oshun. She showed me a different path. So, with no logic, no reason, no nothing, we're just going to go with it. Yep.
Yeah.
Or better yet, I had a reading from a guy in Nigeria who I've never met. You know, he cast divination for me. And he said that in this season, we should stay away from this. And I
Summer.
agree, right? So we'll no longer
Wait.
be doing that.
Wait. I mean, I love this and I know you and I know your boldness. So I don't have any doubt that that's how you walked into the meeting. But I am curious, um, how did you how did you gain the wherewithal to be like, no, this is how I'm guided? And then how do you handle it with your team?
So, the truth is I don't often tell everybody
Mhm.
in like there are layers of team. The teams, there are configurations of my team that I've had to, including my finance person and my development person, really be very transparent with about we are building an organization that is led by spirit.
Mhm. Uh-huh. Great.
That our first value is obedience and
Mm.
our yes and listening. And so my goal is to be obedient. So often the things that I say may be counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Both people I've had to tell that to. One is Omi, so she gets it,
Yeah. Of
right?
course.
The other person also gets it and was like, okay. And even when it's difficult to swallow, they have stood beside me with extreme grace and trust. And
Mm.
as we ride the roller coaster, because I tell people, what I've learned is when you go and get divination,
Hmm.
and one of the ways it could come down on the mat is that you get victory. Victory means you have overcome something. So the divination reveals that some of you are going to be successful, and here is the path. It is not devoid of work. It is not
Yeah.
devoid of struggle. It is not devoid of growth. It is not devoid of all the things, right?
Right.
That have to happen in order for you to achieve the next level, right? And so it feels like a roller coaster every time I go to the Babalawo or Ianifa. I get a reading. The reading reveals a path before me, conditions that I may be experiencing, character things, behavior, medicine. It's telling me we see this, this, and this. Here is the medicine. And
Yeah.
often the medicine is how I need to behave. It's not something I
Mm.
need to drink. It's not potion. It's not this. It's
Yeah.
not that. Like you have to, yes, 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 yes. There is parts of this that involve sacrifice, right? And when
Yeah.
I'm talking about like, yes, birds and chickens and goats and whatever, right? All of that is absolutely true. But the purpose of that is the change also has to transform in me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is not, the work is here. So the medicine is what am I willing to practice and walk and hold in what I'm learning about myself. And so I go through all of these stages. And
Uh-huh.
then often a year later, 9 months later, 18 months later, I will be, aha, if I said, if like it's not this week and then if I said and then tomorrow it is, right? Sometimes that happens. It can be on a dime. And often I'm on a journey and that journey is, and then one day I'm like, if I said,
Right.
and I pick
Oh,
up, mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I pick up the phone and I call my babalawo or call my Yanifa and I was like, there's a saying that says the people were praising the babalawos and the babalawos were praising Ifa, right? Because I'm like, it was right. You were accurate. Here's the blessing I received. Here's how I've grown. Here's how my business has grown. And there was, Ifa said. So there's no such thing as a bad odu. Every babalawo, they'd be like, you're going to die tomorrow. Oh, very good odu. Said you're going to die. And I have medicine for you. You're like, there's no such thing as a bad old do. It's always a good old do. Why? Because you have the opportunity to behave in such a way that you
Mhm.
can turn whatever circumstance you're in, even though difficult, into a blessing that forwards your destiny.
Yeah.
Should you choose to listen?
Should you choose to listen? And I just want to mirror back to you, Summer. I understand that in some ways the way you're talking about it is as if, and I actually tend to feel the same way. Like I was just in something a few weeks ago and I got this, we'll just for shorthand call it a soul contract. And the guide was like, if you choose to accept this contract, I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't say no to God. Like I don't like, it's not even an option for me not to accept what God is giving me in that particular way. So I hear that it's kind of the same for you. Obedience is a value. This is what we're going to do. But I guess I want to mirror back to you that that's that is also a choice and a
Mm-hmm.
testament to your faithfulness and a testament to your surrender. And that isn't just a given, right? It isn't just a given. And I know you're not perfect at it and I know you don't always say, but like there is something here that for me when we talk about goddess practice, um, or any kind of spiritual practice, often folks want to get right to like, oh, I was a good, faithful person. And so then this great thing happened to me. And it's often just much more complicated than that. And that when you say up and down, it's like, right. And like some days I'm going to talk to you when you're in a down. And it's
Yep.
not that Goddess hasn't spoken to you or that you're not on the right path. It's just that it actually goes like this. And I think that that is just worth two things being explicit about here. Just
Mm-hmm.
because we accept a call or we accept the pursuit of a goddess doesn't mean that things will just be like, oh, magical. And I think that's a pretty immature way of, I mean, I know that's harsh language, but it's like, that's actually just not how it works. But then also, I just wanted to hold up the mirror to you. Like, you're kind of acting like, of course, but it actually, what you're saying, of course, to is reflecting now 12 years of
Yes.
intense spiritual practice, right?
A-
Of,
and lots of tears and lots of failure and lots of mirror holding and lots of relationship building with, the thing Goddess has done for me is she has attracted light in other women
yeah,
to give me safe space. Right. It's
yeah.
so funny. When we were together last, the word surrender came up, right? And so
Hmm.
in this way, Goddess, I was with you, but Goddess spoke to me through Gibran, right? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
surrender. And I went
Totally.
home and I was like, what does that mean? Like,
Mm,
what does it actually mean? And I've been in this whole thing. Like, I actually had to make a formula because, of course,
mm,
the way my brain works, because I was like, what is the point of surrender? And do I know how to surrender? And like, so we were talking about my health and my body and my life and like the addictions that I have to certain behaviors and like my consumption patterns. And like, so what Goddess had to do for me in terms of my physical health was I was super focused on like I can be a good person, I can have good character, I can exact all this good destiny, right? Deriving my worth from these very external like yes, putting on the cape because that also like
yeah.
the misunderstanding of the assignment in supporting your community and the collective destiny, right? Versus saving people and ignoring yourself because you came here to do
Mm.
self work. And I'm really good at doing the outer work. And I can make
Yes,
an
you are
excuse to
great at it.
do outer work like, oh my God, I'm super busy saving all of the people who need to be saved through food security. I will just type another letter. No, Summer, you're sitting behind a desk and you're physically deteriorating. And Goddess had to talk to me about the fact that one of the gifts she gave me to steward is my vessel, and that I
Mm,
cannot achieve the destiny that I have
right.
without it. And
Yep,
your vessel is actually a gift from the divine,
yep.
and that I was betraying her by choosing
Mm,
to abuse my vessel and let it deteriorate because I actually like there are many people who are born with disease, right? They have things from birth or that are naturally in their immune system or their body that they're born fighting. And she was
right.
like, and I gave you a whole healthy body without disease. And you are allowing it to deteriorate because you don't want to deal with yourself. And I was just like, why is she telling me this? Like, and so Goddess comes with a lot of crying. Oh my God, she
I
comes with a lot of crying.
I mean, and like I also experience her this way, like at times. Like sometimes she comes with a lot of like, oh, sweet baby. But often that is not. She's coming like, you're fucking up. Like, do something, make a different choice. And like, I'm gonna stand here and look at you until you make a different choice. I'm not gonna rescue you. I'm not gonna so there is something, there's a fierceness that I appreciate you experiencing as well. Like you said before, she comes to you in the way that you need her to come to you. Apparently, you and I need a little fierceness
And I'm just like,
because
okay, I get it. This is my vessel. I'll take care of it. Ugh. Like, and even in learning how to do that, right? And unlearn behavior patterns, it's like telling everybody right? Does it also make you responsible for the inner work? So in that conversation
yeah,
about surrender,
yeah.
I had already started turning it around, and I think I had found the thing that was working. But
Mhm.
what was lifted up to me in that conversation is like, we're pretty good at being in patterns. So we can start things off strong, and whether it's 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, right? Whatever, 3 years, 5 years, certain behaviors, like they have a tendency in hard times to pop back up and we
Yep.
fall right back off. And the only way is to really surrender. And I was like, well, Summer, what is the point of surrender? And so, like, I was like, okay. So I made a formula and
Great.
like to what is actually the point of surrender, and to understand that there is like so there's context and condition, right? And then there's a choice point for action. And
Mhm.
after action, you create another consequence and condition cycle, right? So we are in a repeated consequence and condition. So it's actually condition, choice point, consequence, condition, choice point,
Mm,
consequence, right? And where does surrender fall on that?
love it.
This never ending feedback loop. And so for me, it's in between the choice point. Like when the new condition
Mm,
is being created, how am I willing to just let go and trust the condition and that I wasn't? And I was like, even now, you're like trying to control your understanding of your surrender point
oh,
by treating
yes,
it with
yes.
your like
Uh-huh.
Newtonian thinking that you're going to turn this into a complexity formula that you
Right,
that your brain
right.
can understand, instead of saying, Goddess, the thing I want most in the world right now is to be able to be in my body and it be pain free. And you not have to come back and
Mm.
tell me that I didn't take care of the vessel that you've given me. And then be like, set it. Now I'll wake up and be in congruence to the best of my ability with that decision, trusting that Goddess will carry me to my next point. Every visit with my doctor prior to seeing you and Gibran with that surrender conversation, which Goddess used to point out, just another point of my change was, I would say, was trash. I was just like, oh, my
Mm.
doctor, this isn't working for me. What is happening? That week, I had a Sunday appointment that was revolutionary for me.
Wow.
But it
Wow.
came after I was like, here's the thing I want most. I'll just put it on the table. I will just tell it to you, Goddess. I will just,
Uh-huh.
yes, I just want to be able to live in my body pain free, and I want to carry
Mm.
it and it not feel like a burden. And the doctor that I was about to write off and switch went through every medical, like my blood work, like point by point by point, and offered me, like, here's your prescriptions. And I was like, here's how I actually feel about it. And she was like, have you heard of alternate day fasting? Right?
Mm.
And it was just like, I'm going to help you do this. And trusting Goddess, like, I'm not where I need to be, but I'm definitely not. The pain in my body has reduced by
Oh my
90%
gosh.
because I wake
Amazing.
up and I'm in congruence with what I ask for. Not perfection, right?
Right. Oh, that's so good. Oh, such a good
Congruence,
point.
right? Like I do my best to make the choices that I can when I can, with integrity and faithfulness to that desire. And each day that looks a little different, but the real intention is that. And so I try to live it out the best I can, and my body feels better. Like, it's
Amazing.
miraculous.
Amazing. Summer, we have to come to a close, but I just so much of what you just said, right? You gave it over. This is what I want. I don't know how to get it. So I'm just telling you this is what I want. And then living in congruence with that. Congruence, not perfection. My last question for you, because we do have to get moving, is there any advice you would give to anyone who's curious about the Ifa path or moving into relationship with Goddess? Just like, where would, if someone doesn't know where to start and there's not an Omi who comes and brings them a message, what advice might you give?
My advice is, especially if you are a woman listening to this, we have this really beautiful tool within our body called a womb.
Mm.
I would spend time connecting with my womb and just
Mm.
breathing and holding it and asking it, please, let's align
Mm.
through breath so that we can attract what it is we need for us to be whole and live our greatest good. Like, I think our womb is a powerful, powerful, powerful tool that women are no longer encouraged to be in deep relationship with. And if you're starting a spiritual journey and you feel all alone or like you don't know, you actually have a really strong guide, a
You
portal
do.
for Goddess energy deep inside of you. She's your womb. Hold her.
Wow.
She'll show you. She'll attract.
Oh, Summer, that is perfection. We leave every episode with a practice, and you just gave us our practice. Just breathe into your womb and ask her to come or ask for what you want. That's so beautiful. Thank you 1,000,000 times, my friend. I'm so delighted to have you on. And Summer does amazing work in the world, and we'll talk about that someplace else. But if you want to find Summer, how can they find you, Summer?
I'm on Instagram, Summer Disrupted. I'm not a constant poster, but if you message me on Instagram, I will answer. I get those. I'm also on Facebook, just as Sommer Sibilly-Brown. And I think my organization has a YouTube channel where you can find me. So like most people just go to my work website and just be like, I'm looking for Summer. So you can look at good food, goodfoodvi.org and like info. I need Summer. Somebody will find me. I promise.
Someone will find Summer, and it's Summer with an O, just to be clear. So, and Good Food VI. And yeah, let us know what you think about this podcast by dropping a comment in YouTube. We would love to see what you think. Drop me a note, an email at hello@tuesdayrivera.com. Would love to hear what you think about this. I think this has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm so grateful to you, my friend, for being part of it. Thank you so, so much. Until next time. I love you. Oh my goodness.